My name is Matthew Corey. Really old. 41.
Thank you. Are you a musician?
I am a musician.
How long have you been a musician?
I think I started playing instruments when I was about 5. The biggest thing in the 80s was sort of pop music. There were a lot of bands that were sort of would be considered more alternative nowadays. Were actually mainstream, but they were sort of bubblegummy in a way. You know, they were more light-edged and happy to listen to kind of things. And then things got really rougher in the 90s. It was sort of a change for I don't know, for lyrics that were a little bit more depressing and sounds that were harsher and things like that, especially with grunge, but not only with grunge, but metal as well. The metal in the 80s was very theatrical, like the guys would have huge hair and makeup and weird things like that, and then in the 90s I think it was much lesser, but I wasn't really huge into metal, so I don't really know. It's got to be a generational thing, because each generation seems to rebel in their own way. So I would guess or speculate that the Generation X, which is my generation, once we got into our 20s, we just kind of exploded and said, things have been too normal, we need to make some weird things happen now. And so I don't know, we threw things about and said how much we hated the world. Well, since I mostly live in a little hole, I would say music changed my perception of the world. Music was one of my major things throughout high school and college. Actually, it's one of the things I miss, because I used to, whenever I got a new CD, I would just sit with the lyrics and learn the songs until I knew them, and now I can't sing anything new that I have. I have all these new albums from the last, like, 10 years. I don't know any of the words except the chorus, which I always hated. As Holden Caulfield would say, I think that people only know the chorus are phonies. And I've become a phony, which is sad for me. But music, I think, really more changed how I saw the world, because I saw music as giving me my perception, how I should see things.
And how did you see things because of music?
Well, grunge especially made things really negative. I think especially bands like Nirvana made me think about how probably more people were doing drugs than I realized, because they were just messed up. And most of the songs were about hating the way things are and things like that. So no matter what my positive outlook might have been, which it wasn't anyway, because I'm not a very... Well, I seem like a positive person, but the music just kind of solidified the whole idea that the world does suck, and you should just accept that and maybe scream about it a bit. I hated that alternative music became a mainstream thing. It was nice in terms of the radio, because there were actually some good radio stations for a while. They're all gone now, of course, and I don't listen to the radio. I make my own mixes. But it's sort of that whole bandwagon thing. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon for a while, everybody enjoys it for a while, pretends they know everything, you know, whatever. I always was the type of kid who found new musicians and new stuff that no one else was listening to, and that was sort of my identity. And in terms of my own music, you know, I tried to replicate some of that, but I wasn't overly successful. But once that part of my identity became like everybody's identity, I just felt like they were putting on airs. They were being
phony.
Fake, phony. I always have felt that that generation doesn't really get my generation. They are more focused on work and providing for, you know, their families, providing for the economy, making the country a great place. My generation is more about the individual, because the 80s was all the me generation, and that's when I was a teen. And we're just more, what am I about, who am I going to become, and that kind of thing. So I think that my parents' generation has never really understood my generation, because they think that we're selfish, and I think we are, but I think that's sort of natural.
Do you think the 90s generation gets today's generation?
No. I think maybe a little more so, but I don't know. The results are not in yet.
Earth? How do you feel about dubstep? Is it the newest in the music?
It's a good time for old drunk guys.